Okay, good morning, everyone. The January 24th meeting of the county supervisors is being called to order. We admit two more people, Chris Estel and Hagan. Admitting Tom Grish. So let's begin the meeting with acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. I'm going to ask the supervisors that they take their little yellow sticky notes and stick them on the inside of their folder as requested by Abby, because we've been going through quite a few and we need to cut down on that. So, all right, let's move along then to meet with our county engineer.
Morning, Dwayne.
Good morning.
Morning. You guys have minutes and stuff?
We just did.
We did
I
that.
guess I was paying attention to my stuff and not yours. I'm sorry. Good morning, supervisors. Now that I'm up to speed. Let's see, I brought a packet this week again as normal. Activities for the county. We had snow last week, so the crews were out clearing drifts and trying to keep the roads safe for the traveling public. This week we've got Thomas and Keaton over at Boone with the IDOT PCC level 2 inspection classes, so that they'll be up to speed for the construction season. In your the stuff I gave you, in addition to the standard paperwork that Billy gets me on what the crews have been up to, I've included our county ordinance regarding the roads. Highlighted a couple items on there. One of them is about encroaching on the right of ways. It's kind of up to you guys how much you want to do on that. We've got a lot of areas in the county where our 66-foot right of way is 30 feet or less.
As you have been to some of your engineer meetings, what are the rest of the counties doing with that?
I think they take it as a case-by-case basis.
I think that's what we've done in the past here. I know that was the case back in the late 80s, early 90s when I was on the road department. And there, it seems to me the same ones that are doing it now were doing it then. So it's, does it hinder the work in the road right away?
I don't think on a lot of the low volume roads, it's not an issue.
Right.
I'll take a look at things this spring as we go around and they start field work. And if there's something that looks like it's an issue, I'll try and visit with the farmer before they get crops in the ground.
Let's put that on our list for Farm Bureau.
Okay.
And speaking of Farm Bureau, which we meet with them every year, they asked me if Dwayne was going to come, and I said, well, could he zoom in? And we arranged that. So he will attend at 7 when we meet with them, which is on the 3rd by Zoom.
February 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wasn't aware we were coming up on that. Were we, or did we all?
I assume we all got emails. Did you get an email on that?
No, I didn't see an email from it.
It's from Lane, somebody. Let's see, it came a couple weeks ago.
And on that same note on encroachments, on our nutmeg project that we'll be doing this spring, I brought you guys the check plans that we'll be submitting to the DOT.
Mhm.
Those are the 11 by 17 there in the file. There is a property that has a fence that's in the right of way. That house just north of one.
North of Salina Road.
South of Salina Road, north of.
North of Salina Road, south of
North of
200.
that they've got a split rail fence that's right on, just off the edge of the shoulder that we're gonna have to
Haven't
take
had
out.
move.
We have sent certified letters to the homeowner. They have rejected or ignored them,
Is there-
so.
Yeah, as I remember, there was some history there,
And-
and maybe Barton's more inlet and chat with him. I don't
We
know.
haven't been able to contact the owner. We're sending them regular mail. And that by doing the certified letter and the regular mail, we've lived up to the requirements that we need to, and we'll give them until the end of February. And if it's not there, that gone. If we have not heard from the owner, we'll remove that little chunk of fence.
Have you sent certified?
Yes, sir.
Have you been picked up?
Nope. It was,
He's probably not there.
yeah, it was rejected.
I don't think he's there a lot.
Yeah.
So, I can find out who it is, but last time he knew. Might be, I don't think he's even in the state.
Yeah, that's kind of, and this was like,
Yeah, we
If he's
sent
not-
certified mail back in December.
Okay.
If he's not, we can track down his address, I would assume, wouldn't he,
If he
through the
needs
assessor's
help,
office?
I could look into it. But last I knew, I don't think he spent a lot of time.
yeah, that's kind of what, I think this came up a few years ago when they did some initial work on Nutmeg.
And then further back in the codes, it talks about snow plowing.
Mhm.
And one of the items on there is that the county does not replace mailboxes that get damaged during. snow.
Correct.
And I've talked with Billy and Mark, and they have in the past, basically on a case-by-case basis. It looks like the grader was egregiously negligent and could have avoided it. We replace it, and if the snow was heavy enough that it was just collateral damage, then we don't. So until it gets to be an issue, we'll continue with that policy. Then Billy also asked me this summer, since we're looking at doing a lot heavier rock installations, they wanted to look at doing 410s for the crews doing the rock work.
Mhm.
That's a good idea.
Basically it saves you mobilization.
Sure,
Right,
no, that's a really good
And
idea,
our-
that we have less commute.
You know, by state law, we have to give the guys the crew members a 15-minute break every 4 hours.
Mhm.
And my thoughts on that is, since they will be basically working through their lunch, is that we would pay them just a straight 10. They'll eat, they can have their lunch and their break basically considered while they're at the rock piles.
Since we have an HR person now, you might want to check with him just to make sure, because I know there's some very different interpretations and we want to do it right, and I don't.
And that's basically how every construction firm I've ever worked for did it.
Okay.
You know, if you work through lunch, you don't get docked, not because you're not,
Mhm.
you don't take it formal lunchtime.
Right, but that, I don't know. I just know enough to be dangerous in previous world, just to be good to check with
All
them.
right. Let's see. On the greater sheds, Batavia and Pleasant Plain, we've got the floors in, they've got the boiler units in, so we actually have live floor heat. So we're waiting on Ideal
Mhm.
to get those hooked up so we can have solar on those.
Good.
Hopefully we'll hear back from them in the next week or so on any updated pricing, if things have changed since they quoted us in October.
Mhm.
Everything seems to have gone up, but hopefully that hasn't been drastic. Batavia will have city water and sewer. And at Pleasant Plain, we're going to go with a rainwater capture system and then a sand filter. It was $10,000 to hook up to Wapello water and $20,000 for a well. So I think we can get an underground tank system in for a few grand. So we should be, and, you know, it's not like we're gonna be
Well, it's not
Cooking
like
and
it's
drinking and-
potable.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's potable water.
basically for flushing and washing windows.
Yep.
And on the subject of greater sheds, Billy approached me about combining the Lockridge shed and Glasgow shed. And that's the Google Earth shot that I've got, is we have that right of way on Old 34, it's 218th Boulevard. Down at the far west end of that, while we have
It's a good idea.
French Rental
What's
Service.
the benefit of combining the two?
Basically just reduced cost of replacing, so we only have to build one big shed as opposed to two smaller ones, one water system,
Okay,
one floor heat
I think
system.
that's a good idea.
And Lockridge is basically the separation point of the two districts, so it's a
one
little
goes
extra.
one way and one goes the other.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's a
have
little
two
more,
garages.
it's a little more driving, but
Mhm.
it should, that's property we own and aren't utilizing. I think that might be everything that I've got, folks.
Well, we're going to talk next, discuss and consider farm to market Jefferson County HMA resurfacing plans.
We did that last week.
Well, that's what I thought, but
Yeah,
we have that
I
here
snuck, I
again.
snuck that in so we could get them submitted as in our discussion, so I could get them submitted to the DOT.
Okay, all right. So we've already signed the cover sheets and all of that. This is for the resurfacing of 32nd Street out here from Libertyville Road up to where the city completed their resurfacing.
That's correct.
Okay,
And that would be in April 11th, I believe, April 19th.
all right. Then we will move on then, and we're going to meet with Scott Vaughn and Melanie Carlson for the presentation of the new fire station proposal.
Thanks for coming.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
it
for
was-
coming.
Just a second.
I may have to slide this out of the way.
Oh, that's chairs. Now they
Low.
have rollers.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the only one.
Wow, I can square this up.
Well, I'm not doing anything right now, so let me just.
Let's write this down.
I got a way to square it up. There we go. I have a bunch of stickies at home. Yeah, perhaps we could not use things like pencils otherwise. Okay. Where do you want me to stand?
It doesn't matter. You can stand right there. Just speak firmly.
Yeah, okay. All right. So everyone in the room, I think knows me. I'm Melanie Carlson. I'm the city engineer for the city of Fairfield. With me, I have Scott Vaughn, our fire chief for Fairfield. And thank you for having us come and talk with you about the proposed fire station at the 300 block of West Springs. So we're here to talk to you because there will be a referendum for this project. It is for city residents on March 1st. And we'll talk about the funding and the taxes and all that stuff. But as you've probably heard, that we are able to do this borrow without increasing the city's debt levy. So before I get into the proposed project, we're using this opportunity to inform people about how the existing or how the department works and how the existing fire station works. So Scott's going to talk about some of the background information first.
All right, so the structure of our department, we have 21 total members. 4 of us are full-time, including myself. I do 4 things for the city, plus one of those being fire chief. I have 3 full-time drivers that are at the station 24/7, 365 days a year. And then we have 17 volunteers that have full-time jobs throughout town, but they have to be able to leave for any given call during the day. So that's how we're structured. 8 of our firemen are currently certified at the EMT level. So we assist the care ambulance with all medical calls. Last year, we ran 397 fire calls and just over 1,150 medical calls. So the response with the EMT side of our department over the last 2.5, almost 3 years now has really made a difference in some of the response. We felt we needed that with our last provider that we had. And just gets us there because we're centrally located. It gets us there a lot of times before the ambulance, and we can start that care for the patient before the ambulance gets there. So the existing vehicles that we have in the station now currently under the roof, 6 vehicles, one of them being a 85-foot aerial. We have a city pumper, a country pumper. We have a 3,000-gallon tanker. We have a rescue truck, which the guys take to medical calls. We have a brush truck. We have a 16-foot rescue boat that is currently over at the DOT site now in one of the garages there. We have a side-by-side vehicle that's in Sallyport at the old, at our current station in the Sallyport. We have a 32-foot education trailer that's currently being stored at wastewater in one of their big buildings that we will get out during spring, summer, and fall. And we've actually been housing it over at the DOT site too, so it's more centrally located, but it has to be stored at wastewater, during the winter months. And then my vehicle, the command vehicle that I use in my everyday work when I'm doing code enforcement, rental inspections, fire chief, and helping with planning and zoning. So that's a list of the vehicles that we have. So just how we work, the top line there within the city is if we get a call in the city, all of our structural firefighting gear is on our city pumper. So when we get that page in town for a call, the guys obviously wear pagers, they get dispatched to an address, they go to that address, they get their gear off the truck, and we can perform the work that we need to do right there on scene. If it's outside in the county or a county call, obviously we take that county pumper, everyone reports to the station. We take 4 firefighters, a driver, and an officer. And then if the tanker's needed, we obviously take a driver for the tanker and another firefighter. So we take 8 to the county, which then still leaves us with people to respond in town if we get another call, which has happened many, many times. And then obviously the bottom is a medical call. As I said, I've got somebody on duty 24/7. So there's somebody working now during my working hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. If they get dispatched to a medical call, wherever I'm at, I report to the station. So the station's always covered. If we get another medical call, I'll respond to that. We get a fire call, I'll take the truck and respond to that. So that way we're always covered at the station. Area of response, ours, Fairfield's area is in the red, and you can see the outlying areas there. We cover just in our territory a little over 130 square miles. And if you go countywide with our mutual aid response, I believe it's about 460 square miles. So all of the area that you see there, we all have what we call a working mutual aid agreement, which has now been implemented to automatic. in the last probably year and a half. So if somebody has a reported structure fire on the Fairfield and Lockridge, close to that county line, and it's on our side of it, we'll get dispatched first. But right behind us in that page, she will page, or they will page Lockridge Fire also. So we've got two departments automatically responding. It used to be where if it was Lockridge's, they would get there and they'd start working that fire, and then they would call for us. Or we would get there and then it's just a delayed response. So now we've got everyone going at the same time. So that's for structure fires and any 1050s that is known that we need JAWS. If we have an entrapment, we get two departments coming, so we've got more manpower there. Insurance rating. The ISO office obviously plays an important factor into this. When I took over in 2011, Fairfield was at a class 6 as far as our rating. The city has done a lot of upgrades in the water, our water system, newer hydrants, our training. There was just a lot of it came down to documentation, but there's just a lot of different things that you can do to get those levels to drop in your ISO rating. Obviously, the lower the number, the better you are. Dispatch has had something to do with this. They were at one point only having one dispatcher on shift at a time. I think Bart, for the most part, now they had two almost all the time, sometimes overnight, maybe not, but during the day, pretty much always two dispatchers, which is what they wanted to see. And then let's see, fire alarms, communication systems, and then fire prevention. We have been doing a fire prevention program for the last 24 years out of our department, where we go to the second grades in all the school, teach them fire prevention throughout the whole school year. We go on a monthly basis and teach them throughout the whole school year, and then bring that safety trailer at the end of the year. They get to go through that. We fill one of the rooms with theatrical smoke. They get to teach what they are, act on what they've learned throughout the year. They get to escape out a window, go around, dial 911, and put everything into place that they've learned. So with this new station that we're proposing, we're currently at a 4. So each time we get rated every 5 years. So we've dropped in my 2 ratings that we've had since I've been, we've dropped a point each time. We're hoping that with this new station and the training tower is something they've said will be very beneficial to us. And then also some of our officers going to officer training school and actually getting certified as certified officers. And we have one that's in the process of doing that. So we're hoping to get that to a 3 in the near future. When we start talking about the existing station, I think most of the supervisors have been in the station. I liken it to the first vehicle I ever drove. That station was built in 1972. My first vehicle was a 73 Chevy Levy. There's a reason I'm not driving that anymore. It was old, and obviously it would not be in good shape anymore. This station in 1972 obviously fit the needs of the community well. But here, 49 years, almost 50 years later, you can see that we are completely out of room. The top right picture is our country truck, and next to that is where we store all of our extra hose. And anybody that knows Brad Waugh knows he's a fairly good sized individual, not overweight in any means, but you can see how tight it is between that hose rack and the truck there. And then the bottom picture is our tanker that goes out the back of the station. And to the left of that is our workbench area. So when we have to do work in that workbench area, we've got to pull the trucks out, which obviously is not a good thing, especially in the middle of winter, because then you have to leave them running with the pump heater on so things don't freeze up. This is a look kind of from the front door in towards the back door. There's our aerial up above there. The upper area is our kitchen, kind of / dorm area where the guys cook their food, and there's a TV up there for them. And then at the bottom of the stairs off to the right there, you can see the dorm where there's 3 beds and a bathroom with the guys. That's where they sleep at night. One of the things that we're finding is more and more firefighters are getting cancer. And it's because of the carcinogens that we're getting with the newer materials that they're using in houses. There's more and more cancer getting spread back to the stations. It's not only on our gear, it's in our skin, but we're tracking that through the whole station, because when you go upstairs, when you go into that dorm, you're spreading that all the way throughout. If you look at that dorm one more time, you see that it's right off the bay floor. This very scary part for me about that dorm is there's no secondary egress in there for the guys. That's where they sleep at night. Most of your problems that you're going to have if you have a fire are going to be in the bay areas where you normally have your fires. If that would happen in the middle of the night, those guys are trapped in that room. There's no other way for them to get out other than that door. So once again, that's back in 72. But the newer stations, what we'll have in the new station is a bay area with what we call an airlock system, and it's going to have obviously a bigger bay area for us to work in. We're going to be able to get our gear off in that area. There's going to be washing machines, commercial grade washing machines there, and shower area there that you can keep all that stuff in the bay area, not track it through. Right now, they go downstairs into the basement for their second set of gear. Everyone has 2 sets of gear. So when your first set's getting washed, you got another that you can use during that time. So,
Okay.
your turn now.
Yeah. Well, the one thing on this slide, last thing on this slide that I want to touch base on was the storm shelter in the risk category 4. So one of the common questions that we've already been asked is, what about rebuilding the existing station, or why can't you just build a Morton building? And in the last couple of years, well, code change all the time. But in the last 10 years, there was a major change to emergency response buildings. It was a direct result of the Joplin tornado, where emergency response units were not able to respond because their buildings were collapsed around their equipment. So because this is an emergency response building and it's a public building, despite what we may have or not may have for local codes, we're still required to have the station meet this risk category 4. And I don't know the exact wind speed or whatever that we're supposed to, that what a risk category 4 means, but I do know that the existing station doesn't meet it. And if we would do more than 50% remodeling to the existing station, we'd be required to increase the structural reinforcement to the existing building. So that means new walls, new roof, new foundation. And at that point, you're better off starting at a new site where you're not trying to keep the existing building operational while you're increasing that structural reinforcement. So the good for the fire department, but that is the reasoning for that. So what has been done up to this point? We do have made available for the public. It's on our website. We have hard copies at City Hall. All of the meeting minutes of the task force, as well as all of the studies, are available and linked on our Facebook page. So the city purchased the former DOT site at the 300 block of West Springs in 2020. At that time, the council had not decided to move forward necessarily with a new fire station, but we knew with all of the city's building needs that having a centrally located site, an entire half a block, was just too good to let go by. So they purchased it. From there, the council authorized Klingner & Associates to study 5 different sites. This included the existing site, the DOT site, near the Law Center, near the old hospital, and the corner of Kirkwood and 4th. There's some parking lots right there. And they looked at the topography, the utilities, the access, all of those things. But probably the biggest feature was the drive time analysis, or how quickly the trucks can respond to different areas of town. And what it showed is what we knew already, that having a centrally located station provides the most uniform coverage to the entire community. But also what's important about the existing site and the DOT site was being very close to the railroad underpass on 2nd Street. It's That increases the response time to the northern part of the town and out into the country by being able to bypass the railroad. So once it was narrowed down to the existing site and the DOT site, then the task force was created to look at each of those sites more carefully. Structural analysis was done of all 3 buildings to determine, again, what we were going to have to do to bring it up to that category 4. We also did asbestos testing so that we knew what we were dealing with if we were remodeling or tearing down. And then the architect did site plans and floor plans for each of the sites. After looking at all those things, the task force or the group of community members decided that the DOT site not only made the best sense now, but provided more room for any future additions. So this is what is being proposed and what the task force finalized with the architect. So it'd be off on the left side of the screen, or your left, that the larger trucks are coming out onto 4th Street. This would be sitting at, looking at 4th and Briggs. And larger trucks are coming out to 4th, the smaller trucks are coming out to Briggs. The central tower there is a hose tower. The train tower is on the other side, so we'll go ahead and put that. So this would be at 3rd and Briggs. The east side of the proposed station would be more your office space, your locker rooms, your sleeping quarters, and then you see the training tower up there on the upper right. And I do have other layouts or other copies of the floor plan. So on the left side is 4th Street, the right side is 3rd Street, and the bottom is Briggs. Then you see the larger trucks pulling out onto 4th. Then as soon as you come off of the garage area is in kind of the light teal, and you go into the green area. That takes you from the bay area directly into the showers and the laundry area. So that, and there's an airlock or a vestibule there that's keeping the garage contamination in there, but it takes you directly into the showers and the locker rooms, so you're not taking your gear, and you can get cleaned up before you go to the rest of the station. Oh, back up. The light blue is, I'll say, more recreation space. We have a exercise room, a day room, break room, and then all the way on the right side is a classroom space. We have this separated out from the rest of the building with some bathrooms there in that hallway. Obviously, the fire department and surrounding fire departments are going to be using it for training, but by separating it from the rest of the building, we're able to rent it out at night or let other people use it and keep it separate from the rest of the station. You can kind of see there's a bold dashed line around the sleeping quarters and in like the middle north part. That is the area that is as considered a storm shelter. So even a higher level of protection than the category 4. And that area is enough that if the classroom is fully occupied, there's enough space in there to put all of the occupants that are in the classroom in there. So safety during the different uses. What we also have in that storm area is a possible office for emergency management, as well as an emergency management command center.
Where's that?
So here would be the command center, and this would be an office, and then this is storage. So all of that is within the storm shelter area.
What is the size of that?
I will get that for you and get back to you. The dark blue is the sleeping quarters, and I want to say those are like 10 by 11, so 10 by 12 maybe for the office area, and then double that size for the command center. The idea with the command center, I mean, as you guys know, over the last 2 years, EMA has been working closely with public health because we've been in a public health emergency. But in most natural disasters that are going to occur here in Iowa, EMA is going to be coordinating with the fire department. If it's a tornado, derecho, you're going to be working with the fire department regarding structural, tree cleanup. We are in a seismic zone for earthquakes. You're going to have to, if we would have to deal with that, you've got gas to shut down and all those things. That works well to have that coordination within the fire department. But then also having it in the storm shelter and opening up area from the law center, because that's my understanding is right now, the command center would be in the conference room of the law center. And this provides another space for EMA. Oops. Goodness. All right, so I mentioned at the beginning that we're able to do this without increasing the city's debt levy. The dark gray is the city's existing debt. And the top of the line is going up just due to general growth, not due to an increase. The city's debt levy is around $3.02. So that's keeping it at $3.02. What we have happening in the next couple of years is you'll see that the existing debt starts to go down, and that is due to payoff of some debts. The blue is the fire station debt, and you'll see that it fits in that graph without increasing the $3.02. What this graph also shows you then is in 2027, and then again in 2029, we have room in that debt capacity for additional projects. So not only can we do this project without increasing the debt levy, we can do projects a few years down the road. We're not eating up our debt capacity for multiple years. I will say that right now, we have that future debt about 10 years from now earmarked for overlay of Burlington, because we know we're going to be seeing that in about 10 years. What does the debt levy mean in dollars and cents? The proposed cost is around $6 million, with $5 million coming from the general obligation bonds, hence the referendum. And then another $1 million the city has earmarked of the ARPA funds. We'll be working with Pathfinders to apply for as many grants as we can. And then like the demolition and the engineering, we're going to be trying to pay for as much as we can of that out of the general budget of the city. Time frame, the March 1st is the referendum. If the referendum passes, we'll be starting with Klingner and Associates on the final design. Really, regardless of whether the referendum passes or not, we will start demolition on the DOT buildings. We have already actually talked with the Restore about taking the doors and plumbing fixtures and some of the things that are too worn out for any necessarily city use, but they could still be used on the residential level. So we'll be working on that over the next year. Again, if the referendum passes, we'd be looking at bidding the project about a year from now. And we'd be looking at a year to 18 months of construction, which would be mid-2024 moving in. So finally, in conclusion, as I mentioned, we were able to do this without an increase in the debt levy. Also, the rule rate remains the same at 60.75 cents per thousand.
So there's no increase for the roll.
Correct. Yep.
And that's because they're already mixed up.
That's true too. Yes.
Into that.
Yes. And to get into that, the rule rate is really meant for operations anyway.
So tell me this, because I have had questions from rural residents. They're concerned that their taxes are going to increase and they have no say over this.
Mm-hmm. So the 60.75 is capped at the state level. And like a lot of services, the fire department does not make money from their services to pay for everything. So the city is not proposing changing anything because we're already maxed out. If there was something changed at the state level, that would be to help operations, not to fund the project. And given the legislator, I don't expect anything to change at the state level. We did find out that there was maybe some discrepancies in what is the written coverage area versus the way they've actually been covering things. So we will be working with the townships to make sure we're all on the same page and get some of those contracts updated. But there's no proposed change. Also, so the other thing is with the proposed site being just catty corner from the existing site, there won't be a change in the response times. And I guess for you guys, this also means that there is no change to public health. We have no plans for the existing building other than to keep it there. We will not be moving public health out. If you want to move them, that's fine, but we are not moving them out. And if this passes, we'll obviously want to meet with you guys. We know that we need to get their occupancy in written format with you guys, but there would be additional space for them to utilize if this passes. And we've already talked that the basement would then be completely opened up for both the city and the county to use for record storage. So I think that is everything. There's 2 public meetings that we're having. The first is on February 7th at 5:15. And the second is February 17th at 7 p.m. These are both at City Hall. We're going to give this same presentation that we did today. But we will also have all the documents there that if anyone wants to come and view them. As I mentioned, we had a task force that has been involved in this pretty much since the beginning. Their names are on there. We do have brochures. I can give you each one, but I can't leave you more than one copy because it says vote yes. And I know this is a polling place, so I can't leave you extra ones. So we do have a group that is encouraging people to vote yes for this. And definitely reach out to any of the task force members or Scott and I with questions. We feel like we've done a lot of background research to get us to this point, and so we really encourage any questions.
How many people will the conference room sit?
Between 40 and 50. I'm sorry, the meeting room.
Yeah.
Because when we have that training tower, we'll have other departments around here, and we want to make sure that it's big enough for everyone.
Okay.
I've got a question too, with knowing that public health could stay where it's at, and that there is an elevator in the east building of the DOT site.
Yes.
Salvaging the elevator to be moved to the previous location where public health will be at. Is that something that you think the city and the county can work together on to make sure that it goes there rather than going to the restore?
Absolutely. I forgot about the elevator being there. So that is definitely.
The restore is not going to.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, you never know.
Never know.
You never know.
No. And we say the restore is because we felt like we've been all the way through the building and gotten everything that we need of. And like I said, the city doesn't have a need for an elevator, not a 2-story one. I mean, we would need something much different for Roosevelt.
Right.
So it was just something that we had.
Basement handicap accessible so that we can put
Yes.
some of the records that are here into the basement, as we've talked in the past about. We would need an elevator in order to do that.
And you guys worked with Schumacher.
Yes,
this
we
one?
work
Okay.
with Schumacher.
Okay. And it's
Is that even possible? Could you salvage an elevator?
I have no
Well,
idea.
that's
but-
something we'd have to ask Schumacher
Yeah.
and find out.
And we worked with them on the Carnegie building, so And they do a lot of work with Indian Hills, so they work in this area a lot, that I think they'd be willing to come look at it and let us know
Yeah,
if any of that's possible. I mean,
yeah, they work at they maintain the elevator at the new DOT site. Because there's it's a two-story
Yeah.
building. Schumacher does that
Okay.
one as well. So they're pretty well versed with everything going on. I'm sure that it was serviced by Schumacher over here as
Okay.
well in the past, and they know quite a little bit about it. But that elevator is fairly new within the last 15 years.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, it was updated. It has been there longer, but it's went through an update like many of the elevator
Okay,
systems
to meet
around the
the-
state to meet the new
Okay.
requirements that are now in place. But I think that's a way that
Yeah.
there's a potential for saving money for both the city
Mhm.
and the county if we are both going to use the basement as storage
Yep.
space over at the existing fire station.
No, honestly, it was just something that we hadn't thought about to this point, so.
Question on the Emergency Operations Center, would there be any kind of charge
No.
to the commission?
It's up there and then-
Okay, so here's the thing, that has not even been on the radar for Emergency Management Commission.
Right.
So I would ask that you not really, that you say, I mean, that's clearly that's board to approve where that is. It's not, that's what they're there for, so.
Right.
Are there plans for the other part of the old fire station for public health or not?
No. Like I said, the office space would certainly be available to public health. We have talked about the garage space for various city storage, but as far as moving an entire department, I mean, I threatened to move there every time things get a little crazy at City Hall. But I would also get very lonely by myself. But so there's, I mean, we've had a lot of talk, but there is no plans for no department to move in there. And if a department did move, it would be one of the least rowdy ones, like me, that would move in there. No, there is at one time we talked about, a gym space or something like that. And that wouldn't work well with public health, and it would require a lot of changes to make that accessible for something like that. So if anything, it's going to be, some parks equipment, since there's so many parks near the station, maybe the City Hall vehicle in my truck during the off season. So nothing serious.
Hey, thank you for
Yes.
coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. Good
Because we
presentation.
hear a lot of things. It's good for us to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I see that Rebecca isn't here. I think I'm going to move that to the agenda next week, and then we'll double check to make sure that Rebecca gets notified that she can come and make a presentation to the
I think she knew. about
Board of
it,
Supervisors.
'cause I told her this week.
Well, obviously, she's not here. If she does happen to come later before the meeting adjourns, then we will see her at that time. But we'll move on to set nuisance appeal hearing date. Pat McBan. We've had a request from Nathan Harriman for a nuisance abatement hearing. You had said that the 31st of January would be a good day for you to be able to meet with us. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Okay, so,
I thought we talked about 10 a.m.
yeah, we've got a 11 a.m. Department head meeting set for that day.
That's not
So
gonna take that long.
why don't we go ahead and set 10 a.m. for a nuisance abatement hearing with Nathan Harriman on Monday, January 31st in the boardroom. So we'll need to get notification out to Mr. Harriman for that. And I'm assuming your office will do that, Pat?
No, the notice comes from from you guys. So last time the auditor's office put together a a letter with the date on it, and then it was put in the mail to him.
Okay,
So that's the way it should go again, especially since with him the last time, he expressed some confusion or, he doesn't really like opening letters from us. So,
right.
if it comes from the same place it came from the last time, that makes it more likely he gets it.
Okay. All righty. I'll work with the auditor's office and get a letter put together so that we can get it out yet today or tomorrow for that meeting. That way he's got plenty of notice time and doesn't get the notice the day before the meeting starts. So, all right. So we're going to set January 31st at 10 a.m. in the boardroom for nuisance abatement hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, let's make committee reports.
I have none to report this week.
Okay, Drish has none.
I had an ambulance board meeting on Wednesday. And is it Elizabeth Etsy is going to replace Paul Gandy on that from the city's side? We're in vice chair of that now. We're starting to talk about a budget for, I believe it was year after next, for a new ambulance. So there was just a little preliminary discussion, and I asked Shannon, our sheriff, what we think it would be. It'd be about 70,000. So as long as we know that ahead, she and I thought we can probably budget that and not have to worry about doing any special financing for that. And at the end of June, we'll need a new medical director. So there was some discussion about that. So,
Okay,
and what else? Snowing. We had service agency, right?
mm-hmm.
And conference board. So
All
I'm
right.
not gonna say too much right now, just kind of been a holding pattern.
Okay, I attended my first Board of Health meeting. I was a little late in getting on with the meeting because of some things I was tied up with. When I joined the meeting, they were in discussion about employees and what was going on, new hiring practice. They want to make a change in eliminating some programs that they have currently been doing, mostly in-home visits, those kind of things. So they have an employee that currently does that, but they would like to retain that employee into a different type of position so that they don't lose it.
What would yeah, but what are they gonna do? What are the outcomes?
Well, I'm going to ask Chris to fill us in a little bit about that, if you would, please, Chris.
The board tabled those discussions until March. We had such a big agenda the other night, and as Darren indicated, he was a little late hopping on. And so we're going to have a discussion. Either we're going to have a special meeting in February or discuss at our March meeting to see exactly what needs to transpire. The reason is because too, if you guys remember during your Board of Health orientation that I invited all of you guys to attend, the local public health services grant is changing their funding stream and what they will and won't pay for in the next 5 years. So we're already making those transitions now. Some of those changes take place July 1st. So I think the board, just wants to have more time to process it. Even though I talked to them in November about it, there's other things that we were talking about, and they would just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and have more information and be able to move forward accordingly. Because if you guys that have been on the board, well, Dee, it would just be you, I guess, but if you remember when Peggy retired almost 3 years ago, we didn't replace that position. So I have no true office person in my department. Her responsibilities are spread through a couple different people. Well, one of those persons has recently quit. So, you have a lot of administrative assistant type needs that are not currently being met. So we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and transitioning away from direct service in someone's home, that takes a different level or different responsibility on the employee's part. So we don't know.
Current programs that have, and
I'm sorry, Dee, what?
I guess I'm interested in what are some of the outcomes of the current programs and the ones you think will go forward and what might be replaced? And I don't have to have an answer today.
Yeah, we don't know all of that yet.
We'll need that at budget time because
Well, our salaries, currently our salaries are getting, my salary, the majority of my salary is being utilized and paid for by the local public health services grant, because everything that I do is on behalf of the local board of health. So the dollars that we're not going to be able to be utilized for direct service are already being utilized for my salary, which is totally appropriate. So.
No, I understand that. I'm just interested in what are the outcomes from the money that's being spent. And we can have that discussion at budget time, but please bring some of that information.
Yeah, please send me an email. You have to remember too, we're just coming out of a pandemic. We're still focused on that. So the last 2 years, we've not been able to do some of the things that we had been doing previous to the pandemic, because our staff has been busy.
And since we've got some new board members, maybe you can refresh us on what those are or were.
Sure.
If you're going to
Sure. Do they have the schedule set yet for those department head meetings with budgets? Because my schedule's getting kind of full the next couple of weeks. So that's why I was wondering where we're at with that too. So, okay. Any other questions about the board of health? All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it.
I think that was the only, other than the conference board meeting that I sat in by phone
And that
on.
was pretty routine.
And that was a fairly routine meeting, but that was the only other meeting that I attended this week.
Okay.
So can I get a motion to allow claims and approve reports?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Derish, a second from Sandquist. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discuss and consider nuisance properties. We did that already. And
Okay,
what we're
and
moving
it looks
forward
like-
with.
Yeah, we may not have the budget work session this afternoon. We will this morning, but
Right. So I would make a motion. No, there is any public comment from any of the people here in the room with us? No? Okay.
You guys are gonna.
Tom Drish and Megan Coffin are on with us. Is there any public comments that you guys would like to make?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I would accept a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will be moving into a budget work session. I think we're going to give ourselves about a 15-minute break here
Perfect.
before we begin that, and we will return. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Connor.